So let's talk about a little bit more about like an average person, right? Let's say an average person comes into your gym, the body practice, and they say to themselves like, "Hey, I want to move more like Steve. I want to lean up. I want to look better, and so on and so forth." We'll tackle diet in a little bit. But what would you do if you were to have somebody, let's say, an hour a day, 5 days a week?
The first thing to do for me after the basic assessment of how able they are, and
Sure.
that's actually, to be honest, it's at least a month to really do blueprinting. I
To
never
figure
really
out.
thought about it, before. I used to just have people jump into training ignorantly. As I've aged, I've improved my stance on that. But to really learn a person when you work with them one on one, and that's really what I specialize in. Working with people one-on-one, which is why you will never hear me talk about this system working for everybody,
Sure.
because my lens for so many years has been working and seeing so many personality types. Anyway, mobility number one.
Sure.
Mobility will show where the weaknesses and where the strengths are. Building and developing strength is almost without thought for me. It's so easy for me because that's all I have done for 20 years to teach people. It primarily is working with them in strength. With mobility and with cultivating a awareness of balance, the average person an hour a day, 5 days a week. I mean, from starting point zero, yeah, they're going to get amazing results. They're
Sure.
going to feel phenomenal. Um, But in the voice of my old teacher, Ido Portal, you will not get anywhere if you do not put in the time.
That's not bad.
My friends, I'm telling you, you are going to work. And so, and he wasn't kidding. I mean, when he was saying 4, 5, 6+ hours a day, he wasn't kidding, because the first time I was able to hit one-arm handstand, I had to, because again, I wasn't a gymnast, and I started late. I worked up to training 5 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 2 months right before I hit my first, legitimate stick, which is completely nuts for the American psyche to wrap their heads around that.
Right.
That's just, that's just kind of one example of many things. And that's only one element. But a greater story of excellence is my mentors in Hand to Hand, which are the Alexis brothers, who still perform out of Mystere. 5 years to learn one element. 5 years, one element. And that gives you a perspective of what we want as Americans and how we look and how we measure everything up. When you look at true excellence, when you see it, you know it. You can see the refinement, you can see the work. It did not come from 1 hour a day. You can have beautiful, amazing wellness results training an hour a day. You really can. But you rarely find it if you go to Gold's Gym or one of these chain health clubs, because it's just accosted with bullshit.
Right.
So when my students come in here, and if they're too chatty, I look at them, and then it's like they know. If I look at them and they go, okay, the chatting needs to stop. Yeah, because your ass is here to train.
Right.
I want you training. If you're coming in here with this place, and there's, you got rings, and you got bars, and you got stall bars, and you got, weights around, you got a floor that you can move, use it, and identify what it is that you're going after, and, go for it. My base business, the body practice, basically has one of two ways. So you can either go the general way, which is more or less for people who want mobility. They get the DVDs, and they can watch it and take it at their own pace. The other way is coming in to work with me privately and doing skill proficiency classes. So there's a very specific objective. And so one way is far more mainstream. The other one is far more niche.
Sure.
And they both serve their purpose, of course.
Right.
Bridging those two, sometimes you have an athlete who is average, occasionally, who gets the bite. And at that time in their life, for whatever the purpose, things conspire that they said, I want more than what I'm getting. So I would like to learn how to handstand. And that to me is That's what I now live to coach for, because I'm no longer moved by general fitness. It does nothing for me on a professional level because I've been doing it my whole life.
Right. It's easy. It's second thoughts to you, right?
Right. So I need something to challenge me, and I need the people coming in with, I love working with athletes, but I love seeing average people do extraordinary things. It is the greatest professional thing I see.
Yeah, that's totally awesome. I'm glad you kind of touched on something that's like close to me because I remember the first time I went to see former Cirque du Soleil athlete named Jean-Luc Martin to help me with my hand balancing, and I said, okay, I want to learn the one arm handstand, and I'm thinking in my head, I can hold a handstand for a minute, I can press the handstand, I can walk around on my hands. I got to learn a one arm handstand. He goes, okay, let me see you kick up to a handstand. I kicked up to a handstand, and he just put his hand on his face, and he's like, oh God, where do I start? And he basically just checked me really hard and was like, you got years worth of just holding a handstand the way I'm going to teach you today before you'll ever even think about, even lifting to your fingertips with the opposite hand. He's like, you really, really have a lot of work to do. This one arm handstand dream needs to be shelved until the perfect handstand dream is reached first. And that was a really humbling experience. And a component of that was to think about, I would consider myself someone who's an expert in transforming people's bodies. I've had my hand in hundreds and hundreds of body transformations, but that involves a lot of different components: diet, psychology, exercise, so on and so forth. But they're really not super challenging to learn. And this guy studied handstands, just handstands,
Right.
for 30 years straight. And it just blew my mind. It just absolutely blew my mind how much focus and attention to detail goes into learning a skill like you're talking about. So what do you find motivates you to continue training, other than just like you said you got motivated with athletes? What motivates you to continue training and improving? How can people get more motivated, I guess I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the challenge is there. On the internet or YouTube or Facebook, you have select athletes that basically do the same thing all the time. Some people planche all the time, or they lever all the time, or they have a thing, right? That
They
they
have
kind
their trick.
the thing that I'm working on right now is a crocodile, a single arm elbow lever off of fingertips.
Okay.
And I can hold it for 4 seconds, and I promise my audience that I won't post a YouTube video till I can show 5 seconds controlled before I actually post it, because that to me shows a level of control. I haven't, to do it as it is right now, it is an excruciating experience because the ligamentous system in the hands, for all intent and purposes, they're getting close. So it was funny because learning this from 1 to 3 seconds, it took a long time. And then it took months just to get one more second.
Right.
And this final second is going to take even more months. And so that blew my protocol completely out of the water. I was completely like, I had this, I'm very methodical in how I lay everything out for myself. And my student for that matter. But this is where you grow to become very in tune with, okay, this is not responding. My body is saying, I need to recover this hand, because it would be sore. I would do the last workout I had, I got really good. I was feeling good. I had probably 4 sticks at about 3.5 seconds. I was sore for 9 days.
Wow.
In the joint of particularly my thumb. And so the amount of prehab work that I had to do and everything to get it healthy again, where I could start loading it again, it took a long time. So that made me kind of go back and refigure. There's no book on some of these elements. So it is trial and error based upon the constituents that have come into your life that have imparted their information to you to lay out the protocols. But then, I'm 40 years old. I've never done this stuff before. And so, you're for all intent and purposes, I mean, you're doing the best you can with what you have.
Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of this stuff that we do, Tyler, it's like we get the challenge bug because it's there for us.
Right.
And once I hit this fingertip thing, I'm going to move on to the next challenge.
Right. It's just something what's next?
That's what I do. I mean, like, I'm not going to spend the rest of my days doing continuous crocodile stuff. And this is why. So when I did competitive cycling, it taught me a lot that no other thing could teach me. And what I took from that is I learned how to go to a place where I could put myself through suffering of so much pain in a time trial, for example, which is such a completely different burn from, say, a bodybuilding application, which is a very different burn, and fatigue symptoms that you get from doing amounts of planche training over and over and over again, doing planche work in the shoulders, dying, aching, throbbing. They're hot all the time. They're always inflamed. And then you got a trameal and all this garbage on your and massage work. But each experience teaches you something. And when I tell you that I'm an explorer, that's exactly what I mean. So we'll see where the path leads. It's kind of like I just follow the yellow brick road, man.
That's so cool, man. What a cool thing to stay motivated. The fingertip thing is so interesting because, you know, that structural strength takes so long for adaptation to occur. I remember watching a documentary with one of the Shaolin monks who was doing the two-finger handstand, and he was saying maybe within the next 5 years I can lift that other finger, you know. And so just it's amazing how much time it takes for ligaments and bones and tendons and stuff to actually adapt to the point where you can really see a significant change. I met Slim the Hammerman. Do you know who Slim the Hammerman is? He's an old-time strongman who takes 30-pound hammers and basically holds his arm out straight and leverages them to his nose and back. So it's just amazing wrist strength. And when he makes a fist, the tendon right there on his wrist, in the middle of his wrist, is the size of my pinky. It's physically that big. But the man is 70 years old, and he's been doing this since he was 18 years old. So the time it took to get there is just absolutely phenomenal. But it was a cool time to meet him and see, oh my God, like that is just absolutely impressive to be able to hear that kind of stuff. I have a question for you. We see the rise of kind of bodyweight calisthenics, these kind of ghetto park workout people coming on. This stuff is exploding right now. I really believe it's kind of right behind CrossFit, and it's about to kind of blow up across the nation as something that people are all going to get really into, this bodyweight training and bodyweight progressive training and so on and so forth. But one of the things that I see when I focus on that is kind of a neglect for movement quality, the same way that like jerking a heavy weight off the ground to an overhead snatch position is in CrossFit. What's your take on that?